LEGO Star Wars Separatist sets are arguably the most neglected area of the entire theme from LEGO themselves, and despite LEGO neglecting these sets in the past recent years and not making very many, fans actually love these sets. I see in the comments of my videos all the time that we need more Separatist sets, we need more Battle Droid sets, etc, etc. So because of that, I want to take a look at all the Separatist sets that we have gotten so far and rank them all from worst to best. Now, like I was saying, this is a pretty neglected area of the theme. We definitely have not gotten as many Separatist sets as we have sets from other factions in Star Wars. However, despite that, we still have a total of 43 separate sets to get through, so let's hop right into it. Starting off at the 43rd spot, I have 7111 Droid Fighter from 1999. This was the very first Vulture Droid that LEGO ever made, and it's pretty bland. It's just a very simple little $6 set with no minifigures, but despite it being simple, it actually represents the Vulture Droid pretty well. I mean, I don't really think they could have done much more in 1999, although I put it in last place because there's just not much going on. It's not a very interesting set. Again, I don't think it's terrible. I think it represents the Vulture Droid pretty decently, but again, there's just not a lot going on. It's just kind of uninteresting. Then next up at the 42nd spot, I have 7252 Droid Tri-Fighter from 2005, and this one pretty much falls in the same category as the Vulture Droid did. It's just a small starfighter, not a lot going on, although I put it one spot higher because I think the Tri-Fighter has a much more interesting design, and LEGO did a better job at capturing it here, and also it comes with the Buzz Droid, which is kind of cool. Anyways, next up at the 41st spot, I have what might be a bit of a hot take, but it's 7184 Trade Federation MTT from the year 2000. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually almost considered putting this in last place, although I decided to have some grace and put it 2 spots higher than last place. But really, I think even for the year 2000, this set is just not up to par with its source material as the other sets from that year and the year before and just that era. My main problem with it is just how the top is too thin. It's only 2 studs wide, and it literally almost makes an actual triangle coming up to a complete point nearly, and to me at least, it just looks a bit off. I think LEGO could have easily fixed this and made it, 4 studs wide at the top. That simple fix could have gone a long way, but I mean, after all, it is an MTT, it is a big set, and at the time, it was definitely a fun playset for a lot of people, although again, I just do not think it's as good as it could have been, even for the year 2000. Anyways, now making our way into the top 40, at the 40th spot, I have what was actually kind of the precursor to Battle Packs, being 7126 Battle Droid Carrier from 2001, and I say the precursor to Battle Packs because this was a $10 set with a small build and 7 Battle Droids, a pretty good army builder for back in the day. And despite this set being a great way to get a bunch of Battle Droids, it was 2001 after all, and the build just isn't anything too crazy, especially for today. Moving on to the 39th spot, I have one of the most hated sets of all time, being 75199 General Grievous's Combat Speeder from 2018. And this set is widely hated for good reason. First of all, it was extremely overpriced for 2018 at $30 US. Now today, that doesn't sound that bad, but back then, a lot of people were not happy by this. And also, the set is just very inaccurate. If you look at the actual source material, General Grievous's Combat Speeder is very small compared to this. It's like LEGO was reaching so hard to oversize this and justify it being a $30 set, and it just didn't work. It ended up being overpriced and inaccurate, and those 2 reasons are why it's towards the back of the list. However, it's not at the very back of the list because I'll be the one to say I actually think it looks kind of cool. I know it's not accurate, I know it was very overpriced, but I do think it just looks kind of cool. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyways, next up at the 38th spot, I have 9491 Geonosian Cannon from 2012, and this is definitely a very simple set. There's not a lot going on. However, the cannon does look pretty cool and accurate, and this minifigure lineup was definitely a huge pack-a-punch for only $20. Get a Phase 1 Commander Gree, which looks awesome, Barriss Offee, and 2 unique Geonosian Warriors. Actually, excuse me, the dark gray one is actually a zombie Geonosian Warrior, but still, it's a pretty solid set, definitely a great deal for only $20. However, it's towards the back of the list because there's simply just not much going on. We're kind of to the point now where none of the sets from here on out are actually bad. There's just a lot to go through, so sadly, some are just going to be towards the back. And next up at the 37th spot, I have 8036 Separatist Shuttle from 2009, and I actually think this set is pretty interesting. It's actually, for some reason, one of my white whales. I've never gotten my hands on this set, and I just want to for some reason because I think it looks interesting and kind of unique. And on top of that, it's got what I'm pretty sure is the only new Gunray minifigure they've ever made, so that's pretty cool, I guess. Although I do have to say, the build itself is a bit bland. It was 2009, but it's not bad. Moving on to the 36th spot, I have 7748 Corporate Alliance Tank Droid from 2009, and this set is pretty cool, don't get me wrong. For $25, it was a great deal, and those jetpack troopers are really awesome. However, the tank droid itself is in my opinion, the worst one they've made. Well, not really the worst, just the least of the three. And the reason is because I don't like how short it is. It just looks a bit off and isn't super accurate to what a tank droid's supposed to look like. And on the back half, the tread does sag a little bit, which just kind of looks unappealing. I also think the sort of triangle shape of the tread is a bit too gradual in the front. It should be a bit steeper. At this point, I'm just nitpicking though, but I actually do think those things are kind of annoying about this set. On the bright side though, those massive printed disc pieces are awesome. And again, it was a pretty good deal at only $25 with a decent figure lineup of just 2 clones and 2 battle droids. Moving on to the 35th spot, I have a set that I think actually gets hated on a bit too much, being 8016 Hyena Droid Bomber from 2009. And I've honestly never understood why people just diss this set so much. I guess they just don't like it. I don't know why. I think for 2009, it actually looks pretty cool. It's a very unique ship that LEGO has only made one time. And again, for the time period, they did a decent job at it. Now, one downside is that it's pretty fragile. Those legs do break pretty easily, which is definitely kind of annoying. The head also kind of has a problem of popping off too easily. But other than those two things, I don't really think there's anything really wrong with this set. It's not up to today's standards, but I don't think it was bad for 2009. And it includes some unique battle droids as well. Anyways, moving on to the 34th spot, I have 7752 Count Dooku Solar Sailor, also from the year 2009. And this set is kind of weird to me. I think the ship in universe is actually pretty ugly looking, but LEGO did a good job at recreating it here. The back wings or fins, whatever you want to call them, folding out looks pretty cool. However, when the wings are folded in, it kind of just looks like a turd or something. It's not very appealing looking. But again, that's mainly just because this is kind of an ugly ship. LEGO did a good job at making it here, and it includes Magna droids, which are rare and always cool to get. Anyways, next up at the 33rd spot, I have 7656 General Grievous' Starfighter from 2007. And I think for 2007, LEGO did a really good job on this. The front sort of engine area isn't as big and bulky and aggressive as it should be, but there's no areas of this build that really look bad. Again, for 2007, they did a good job. Although I couldn't put it too high on the list because it is fairly simple. There's not a lot going on, and it just includes one General Grievous minifigure, which, unlike the ship for 2007, did not look that great in my opinion. I mean, I know that's a classic figure, but still, I mean, let's be real, it doesn't look the best. But anyways, as for this set goes as a whole, they did a good job, but like most sets towards the back of the list, it's good. There's just not much going on, and it's very basic. Anyways, making our way to the 32nd spot, I have a set that was not good for its time period, being 75283 Armored Assault Tank from 2020, and this set is like good compared to the rest of the ones towards this area of the list, but for 2020, this thing was not good, and I'd even say it was a downgrade from the 2015 AAT. Again, not a downright awful set. Really, the main issue is that I just think it's a bit too small, and also the main barrel on the cannon is too long and just makes it look a bit disproportionate. But still, I mean, for the year 2020, where LEGO sets started to get like really modern, I think they could have done better. Anyways, making our way to the 31st spot, I have a fan favorite, being 7258 Wookiee Attack from 2005. And for $30 in 2005, this was a great little playset. You get the Wookiee Flyer, which is the only one they've made, as well as a few Separatist builds, being the Corporate Alliance Tank Droid and a Dwarf Spider Droid. And speaking of those two builds, to this day, I have never really figured out why they are orange and blue. Most people usually say the reason they are those two colors is because they're based off of concept art for episode 3, and in the concept art, apparently the Corporate Alliance Tank Droid was orange and blue, but besides word of mouth, I've never found anything that actually confirms this. So to this day, I still don't really know why they're those colors, but that's just how LEGO made them, and I know they definitely wouldn't purposely make them the wrong color like that. There has to be some other reason, I just don't know why. On the bright side though, they do look pretty cool in those colors. Oh, also one thing I forgot to mention is that in terms of pure shaping and proportions alone, I think this is the best Corporate Alliance Tank Droid, although obviously it's the wrong colors, so it's not the best overall, but in terms of shaping, it by far is. Now making our way into the top 30, for the next 3 spots, I actually have the 3 homing spider droids back to back, and that's just because they're so similar that I just wanted to put them in the same area of the list. And for the first one, at the 30th spot, I had the 2008 variant, being set number 7681, and for the time being 2008, this set was astonishing. I think LEGO did a great job on it. The spider droid has kind of a wonky design, and they actually found a good way to capture it. Although unfortunately, despite how good this set was in 2008, it is now currently 2024, so it sadly just doesn't hold up anymore, but to me at least, I think this is always going to be a classic. And then next up at the 29th spot, I have the 2016 variant, being set number 75142, and honestly, I don't really like this set a whole lot. I personally actually like the 2008 model more than this. However, I can't deny that this one is arguably better and more modern, but the reason I don't like it is not even really with the set itself. It's just because it was kind of a remake we didn't need. But as for the set goes, I mean, it's about all you'd expect with the homing spider droid, just the main spider droid and a dwarf spider droid, as well as a Kashyyyk trooper and a few droids and Yoda. So it is cool, and it was definitely an upgrade from the 2008 model. However, I personally just don't care for this thing because I don't think it was a remake that we needed. But then that makes the best homing spider droid being the 2013 variant, coming in at the 28th spot, set number 75016. This one came only 3 years before the 2016 model, and I do think it's a bit better, really because it doesn't have that giant stud shooter cannon on the bottom of it that the 2016 model has. I just think that kind of ruins the look. And also I like this one's minifigure lineup a bit more, with Stas Ali, which is one of the most unique Jedi LEGO has made, and then a Phase 1 clone trooper and 2 battle droids. I just think the minifigure lineup is a bit cooler than the 2016 model, and the build is a bit better because it doesn't have that giant stud shooter cannon. Anyways, now that we're done talking about homing spider droids, up next at the 27th spot, I have 75041 Vulture droid from 2014. And honestly, I think this is another set that gets unnecessary flack. And I mean, it's obviously not the greatest set ever made, but I will go so far to say that I think it is the best LEGO Vulture droid. It does have a lot of stickers, but I think they add some great detail, especially on the wings and the front area. And it's also got a very random but pretty awesome minifigure lineup with a battle droid pilot, a buzz droid, and a Nemanodian warrior. To this day, this is one of the most random yet unique figures LEGO has ever put into a set. But I honestly think he looks really cool, and so does the Vulture droid. Moving on to the 26th spot, I have 7929 the Battle of Naboo from 2011. This was the second battle droid carrier that LEGO ever made, and I think for 2011 it was a great set. Actually, to this day it's still a pretty good set, although since its release there has been some other battle droid carriers that have come out that are a lot better. But back in the day, this was a really cool build and a pretty good way to army build droids. One small nitpick I have is I don't really like how the battle droids sit on the actual carrier. They're in like this staggered formation with the blasters in between, and I just don't think it looks the greatest. But other than that, this is a pretty great set, a great army builder for 2011, and was a cheap way to get some cool Gungans with Jar Jar Binks and a Gungan soldier. Anyways though, moving on to the 25th spot, I have what is in my opinion a very underrated set, being 7670 Hailfire Droid and Spider Droid from 2008. And I don't really know the best way to describe this, but in my head this is like the perfect like Separatist or just droid set, because it's a little bit bigger than a battle pack, making it an actual playset, but at the same time it was a great way to get a cool Hailfire Droid and Dwarf Spider Droid as well as army build droids. So again, like to me at least, this was back in the day the perfect sort of Separatist army builder or just Separatist bad guy set. And also I believe this is the only Dwarf Spider Droid they've made in brown, and I think it looks pretty good. And then next up at the 24th spot, I actually have another Hailfire Droid, being 75085 Hailfire Droid from 2015. And this is a very unique set. First off, the Hailfire Droid is about the same size as the one I just talked about. However, it's like a more modernized and optimal version of it, and I personally like it quite a bit. I own this set and it's always been one of my favorites. I mean, the Hailfire Droid isn't necessarily as accurate as it could be because it's pretty downsized, but I just think it looks good and is a unique build, especially with those giant disc pieces for the wheels. Those are pretty unique and only came in this set. And also the minifigure lineup is pretty cool too. You get an exclusive clone lieutenant as well as 2 super battle droids. I mean, really, I just think this is all around a solid set and was definitely a great deal back in 2015 for only $20. Anyways though, moving on to the 23rd spot, I have another set that I personally really like, being 7678 Droid Gunship from 2008. And this obviously isn't the best droid gunship they've made because it's pretty dated by this point, but man, that does not mean this thing isn't awesome. The bomb dropping feature is so cool. It has that little gear on the top that you twist and all the bombs fall. It's definitely a great sort of selling point for this set, although again, like I said a few times, it is pretty dated. That's why I couldn't put it any higher, but still, this is one of my favorites, and I think for it being the first droid gunship, they did a great job. Now moving on to the 22nd spot, I have 7869 Battle for Geonosis from 2011. This was a Toys R Us exclusive back in the day, and I think it's just another really solid playset. The cannon is super unique. It looks a bit goofy, but really cool at the same time. I think it has an awesome design. You also get Captain Rex and Luminar Unduli, which are pretty rare figures that were great in this set. And also, not to mention, the cannon itself has one of those massive rubber spring-loaded shooters. I forgot what they're referred to as, but everyone loves them, so do I, and it just makes this set even better. Next up at the 21st spot, I have 7959 Geonosis Starfighter from 2011, and I don't have a whole lot to say about this set. I think for the year, LEGO did a very good job on it. The Starfighter itself looks very accurate. it's pretty modern, and the minifigure lineup is really solid too, with Commander Cody Kiadi-Mundi and a Geonosian pilot, although I do feel like the figure lineup kind of feels a bit weird. I can't really put my finger on it. Maybe it should have included like a battle droid or a second Geonosian, but for the most part, this is a great set and a great little starfighter. Anyways though, moving on to the top 20, at the 20th spot, I have 8086 Droid Tri-Fighter from 2010, and I think this set is awesome and quite frankly pretty underrated too. Speaking of just the build alone, I think it's easily the best Droid Tri-Fighter LEGO has made. It's very detailed, the shaping is perfect, and it just looks really good, and it comes with those cool rocket battle droids that are also in the Hyena droid bomber. And continuing on with Droid Tri-Fighters, at the number 19th spot, I have the 2014 model, set number 75044, and like I said, I think the 2010 model is the best Tri-Fighter build. I think it's a bit better than this one because it's a little bit more detailed. However, I think this is a better overall set, if that makes sense, mainly because the minifigure lineup feels more diverse and more complete, with a Buzz droid, Chancellor Palpatine in his sort of prison outfit, as well as two battle droids, one being a security battle droid. I just think the minifigure lineup complements the build a lot more than the minifigures in the 2010 model, so that's why I put it one spot higher. However, like I said, I think the build of the 2010 set itself is a bit better than this one. This one is just more of a complete set. Next up at the number 18th spot, I have a fan favorite, being 75015 Corporate Alliance Tank Droid from 2013, and I think this set is great. It's definitely a step up from the 2009 model. LEGO actually got the shaping down a lot better, but at the same time, like I said earlier, I think the 2005 model has the best shaping, but it's the wrong color, so since this one is the right color, it's gonna take the cake for me at least as being the best Corporate Alliance Tank Droid, and it also comes with Jango Fett and a Phase 1 Clone Trooper. I mean, what's there not to like? Moving on to the 17th spot, I have a set that got a lot of hate when it came out, and at this point I think is pretty underrated, being 75080 AAT from 2015. And yeah, this set got a lot of hate and a lot of flack when it initially released, only for the sole reason that it was significantly smaller than the previous two models, which at the time was definitely disappointing, but looking at the set in hindsight, I can't lie that LEGO actually did a very good job on this build. For 2015, it is surprisingly detailed and has great shaping, and they were able to pack a lot of pieces into this small model. I mean, honestly, just looking at the build with no context, I would think this could release today in 2024. It just looks very well made and is a pretty detailed model at such a small scale. Although in my opinion, 7155 Trade Federation AAT from 2000 is a bit better, and that comes in at the 16th spot. And I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard for me to decide between these two sets. I know the majority of the fan base would pick this one as the better of the two in a heartbeat, but I have to say, despite how good this was for 2000, obviously it does not hold up today in 2024 or in 2015 when the other one was released. Although the reason I decided to put this one spot higher is because those massive printed disc pieces on the bottom just look a bit better than the just blank tan pieces on the other model, so that alone is why I put it one spot higher. But as for the rest of the tank goes, especially the top pieces where the cannons are, it does look a bit bare up there just because there's some plates with no extra detailing, but those massive printed pieces are really cool, and that's what made me put it one spot higher. Anyways though, moving on to the number 15th spot, I have the only Battle Droid Battle Pack ever made, being 7654 Droids Battle Pack from 2007. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, I might have been a bit too gracious by putting this set at the 15th spot. It could have been a few spots back. However, I can't really deny the significance this set has as being one of the best army builders and battle packs ever made. Yeah, the builds aren't great, but battle packs aren't about the builds. They're mainly about the figures and for army building. And for $10 back in 2007, you got 4 normal battle droids as well as 3 super battle droids, 7 minifigures in one set for only $10. I mean, again, this is one of the best army builders and one of the best battle packs ever made. And also, to this day, the only standalone battle droid battle pack that we have ever gotten. I wish LEGO would make another one. Next up at the number 14th spot, I have a pretty overhated set, being 75058 MTT from 2014. And yes, this is definitely kind of a step down from the 2007 model. I think that's kind of obvious to everyone, but it's not bad at all. It just didn't meet the standards of the 2007 model, which were basically impossible standards to beat in the first place because that's one of the best sets ever made. So with that in mind, I don't think it's a bad set, but I didn't want to put it any higher than the 14th spot just because LEGO definitely could have done a bit better on it. I think they could have made it a little bit bigger and included some more battle droids, but unlike popular belief, I don't think this is a bad set. It's just not as good as the 2007 model. Next up at the 13th spot, I have a very, well, honestly, one of the most underrated sets of all time that nobody talks about and I think does not get enough recognition, being 4481 Hellfire Droid from 2003. And this model is insane. It's pretty much the UCS Hellfire Droid that we never really officially actually got. It is an all-Technic set, which might be kind of a turn off to some people, but I can't deny that LEGO did a phenomenal job on this for 2003. It is extremely accurate, it captures the look of a Hellfire droid pretty much perfectly, and it was just extremely impressive that they were able to make it look this good in 2003. Although unfortunately, since it is an all-Technic set, it doesn't include any minifigures because that was kind of the trend back then with Technic sets, but still, it looks incredible and it's definitely deserving of the top 20. Next up at the number 12 spot, I have arguably the most overpriced set of all time, being 75286 General Grievous' Starfighter from 2020, and a lot of people dissed this set because it was so overpriced. 487 pieces and 3 minifigures for $80 US? Yeah, that's ridiculous. But setting the price aside, the build is very good. It was up to standards of 2020, and I just think it's a great display piece, a great representation of General Grievous' Starfighter, and it's got a decent minifigure lineup with obviously General Grievous, as well as arguably the best 212 Trooper they've made, and a cool Obi-Wan figure. And if this set wasn't so overpriced, I would have definitely put it in the top 10, but since $80 is probably the most ridiculous price point ever for this set, I had to hold it back a little bit and keep it at the 12th spot. But now moving on to the 11th spot, I have 7042 Droid Gunship from 2014. This is a great set and one of the best sets released in 2014. The model itself is a significant upgrade from the 2008 variant. It looks way more accurate, way more detailed, and way more modern. Now, I don't personally think the bomb dropping feature is as good on this one as it is on the 2008 model. However, besides that, it's a better set in every way. It looks more accurate, looks more detailed, and has a better minifigure lineup. But now finally making our way into the top 10. At the number 10 spot, I have one of the most underrated UCS sets ever made, being 10186 General Grievous from 2008. And this thing is absolutely insane. It's one of the best display pieces LEGO has ever given us. Now, it is a bit dated, especially in the head area, but it just looks so good. The ways you can pose it, the way it gives off General Grievous's sort of intimidating stance and look, it's just a great display piece, and I really wanted to put it in the top 5, although again, like I said, it is a bit dated, and the biggest problem it has is that unfortunately it is pretty fragile. It's hard to transport, it's hard to kind of handle just because it's fragile and some pieces fall off pretty easily, which is actually kind of understandable for a UCS set like this from 2008. However, I still can't put it in the top 5 as much as I want to, just because sets being fragile is definitely a big issue. Although again, it looks phenomenal and is one of the best display pieces ever made. And speaking of display pieces, at the number 9 spot, I have the newest set on this list, being 75381 Droideka from 2024. And this set is a banger for this year. So far, it's been a fan favorite. I think most people are enjoying this set. Unlike most sets released this year, it actually has a pretty reasonable price point at $65. It is still a bit overpriced, but not as overpriced as some of the other sets released this year, so that's nice. And on top of that, it is a great looking model. It is very detailed and pretty much 100% accurate to what a Droideka is supposed to look like. It's got some pretty awesome features where it can roll up into a ball, and also one where its arms can sort of rock back and forth like it's firing its laser cannons. It's overall just a great set and definitely deserving of the top 10. Next up at the number 8 spot, I have what might be a bit of a controversial take, but it's 75040 General Grievous's Wheelbike from 2014. And let me tell you, for $25 back in 2014, this set was incredible. Not only do we get Obi-Wan as well as General Grievous, but the build itself is just pretty much perfect. In terms of just straight accuracy, I don't really think they could have done much better. It looks phenomenal, and also I just really love the design of General Grievous's Wheelbike in general, and since this set is pretty much a 100% accurate recreation of that, of course I'm gonna put it in the top 10. And continuing on with General Grievous theme sets, up next at the number 7 spot, I have 8095 General Grievous's Starfighter from 2010. Now, in terms of build alone, this set is actually very close with the 2020 model that I talked about earlier. However, I had to put this one a few spots higher because it's obviously not near as overpriced, but in terms of builds alone, I think they're pretty close, although this one is a tad bit better in my head, just because the front area has more detail, I think. This might sound kind of weird, but I think the 2020 model looks a bit too polished, and this one has a better tile to stud ratio, and just looks a bit more detailed and a little bit better in my opinion, so I had to put it a few spots higher, and also it's obviously way better priced. Next up at the number 6 spot, I have another set that released this year in 2024, being 40686 Trade Federation Troop Carrier. This was this year's May 4th GWP, and it's really the best and worst GWP ever made at the same time. The reason is because it's a great set, but I don't think it should have been locked behind the paywall of a GWP because it's a pretty good droid army builder, but that's a whole other rabbit hole and discussion that I've already talked about multiple times. Just speaking on the set alone, I really like it. It's sort of a modernized version of the original droid carrier from 2001, one, and I just personally think the style LEGO was going for here worked really well with this mix of being sort of modern as well as retro and classic at the same time. It just looks really good. Anyways though, now making our way into the top 5, at the number 5 spot, I have a fan favorite being 8018 Armored Assault Tank from 2009. And this set is incredible. It's one of the best Clone Wars sets LEGO has ever made, and obviously the best AAT in my opinion. It's a very nice looking model with a great minifigure lineup, 3 super battle droids as well as 2 normal battle droids and a clone trooper and Yoda. It's a great playset that a lot of people love. Now today in 2024, it is a bit dated. Also, one problem I have with it is that those side cannons stick out a bit too far. I wish they were maybe 1 brick shorter. It would have made the build look more proportionate. But besides that, I think it was a great set, especially for 2009. Now moving on to the number 4 spot, this is probably going to be kind of controversial for being so high, but it's 75233 Droid Gunship from 2019. And this is the best droid gunship they have made by a long shot. I remember back in the day, I thought that they couldn't really do any better than the 2014 variant, but then when this came out in 2019, I was honestly blown away by how good they made this. It is very accurate, very proportional, very detailed, and my favorite part is probably the head. They just did a great job at making it look super mean and aggressive like droid gunships are supposed to look. Now, I still think the 2008 one has the best bomb dropping feature out of the 3 of them, but in terms of looks and just being overall a good set, I think this one is the best. Although honestly, I wish there was like a sheet trooper thrown in here, but it doesn't matter that much. Now making our way into the top 3, I have a fan favorite and what a lot of people consider to be the best Separatist set ever made, being 9515 The Malevolence from 2012. And like I said, a lot of people like this set and they think it's the best Separatist set ever made, and I think it's great. I mean, I put it at the number 3 spot, although I don't think it's as good as people say. I really think people think this set is so good just because it's really the only Separatist cruiser that we have ever gotten, and once a new one comes out, whenever that will be, I think people will see that this set wasn't as great as we thought it was. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to downplay it, it's still a great set, just not as good as everyone thinks, if that makes sense. I mean, but I still put it in the top 3. Honestly, I'm getting hard to follow this point and I'm just rambling. This is a great set. It looks unique, it's definitely a standout set in most people's collection, and for 2012, LEGO definitely did a great job on it. I just think some people believe it's a bit better than it actually is, but it's still worthy of the top 3, if that makes sense. Anyways though, next up at the number 2 spot, I have arguably the best droid army builder ever made, being 75086 Battle Droid Troop Carrier from 2015. And for some reason, this set flies so under the radar for most people. Nobody really talks about this that much, but this thing is actually incredible. First off, the build itself is by far the best looking and most accurate droid carrier LEGO has made by a long shot. Like, it's actually kind of crazy how big of a step up this droid carrier is from the other ones. The main upgrade from it is that first of all, it's bigger and more of an accurate size, but also it has 2 battle droid racks, which is what droid carriers are supposed to have. They're not supposed to just have one way off in the back like all the other ones do. This one actually has 2 and they go all the way across, and it looks a lot better and is more accurate. And like I said earlier, it's arguably the best droid army builder ever made because this retailed for only $40 and you got 14 battle droids. This was such an insane deal back in 2015, and to this day it is one of the best Trade Federation sets LEGO has made by a long shot. But there is still one Trade Federation or Separatist for the title of this video set that is better, of course being 7662 Trade Federation MTT from 2007. And at this point, it's honestly just tradition for this set to be the number 1 spot of most of my ranking videos, but I mean, for good reason. It is one of the best LEGO Star Wars playsets ever made, easily top 3. It has 1,330 pieces and includes 20 battle droids, and on top of that, it only retailed for $100. It's also by far the most accurate MTT LEGO has made, and I also think it was way ahead of its time for 2007, and honestly, we'll probably never really see a set like this ever again. I know I'm gonna sound like an old head for saying this, but they really don't make them like they used to. Anyways guys, that is all for this video, finally. It's been a long time coming. A lot of people have requested for me to do a video like this, and here I am. So let me know what you think about this list. Let me know what your favorite Trade Federation or Separatist set is down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you see the link on screen right now.